Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to the final match, the final act of our journey into Nix here at the Pro Tour in Atlanta. Rich Hagan sitting alongside Pro Tour historian Brian David Marshall and Hall of Famer Louis Scott Vargas. One of these two men will claim the title. Will it be Nam Song Wook of South Korea? There you see him, the first man from that nation to make it to a Pro Tour top 8. He is 3 game wins away from a title. Or will it be the Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer from the United States, Patrick Chapin? Let's find out. Brian David Marshall, what are we going to see?
Well, you know what? I watched these guys play down the back end of day 2, and Nam just destroyed Patrick Chapin with all of a card advantage from his Constellation engine.
Yeah, I think that these decks are very similar, except instead of attacking with Fleecemane Lions and Brimazes, Nam is trying to play Brain Maggots and Eidolon Blossoms to draw extra cards. Though they have so many of the same cards, they're the same colors in a block format. There can't be that much differentiation. So while Nam is trying to draw extra cards and uses removal and Brain Maggot and Thoughtseize to keep his opponent from stopping that, Patrick's trying to attack for 3 and 4 and use his removal and Thoughtseizes to stop his opponent from doing anything else.
Right. And if it turns out that attacking with Fleecemanes is the thing you want to do in this matchup, you know what? Nam can do that too in games 2 through 5.
Yeah, he can sideboard into a deck that really looks similar to what Patrick is doing.
And what Patrick is doing, first of all, he's drawn his singleton copy of Read the Bones, which he's going to utilize here off his Sylvan Caryatid.
First blood.
And Nam decided to play Sylvan Caryatid instead of playing Brain Maggot on turn 2. And I think a big part of that is he drew an Eidolon of Blossoms. If we take a look at his hand, he's got Eidolon of Blossoms. So now a turn 3 Eidolon, and then next turn Brain Maggot, draw an extra card. He also has the option of playing turn 3 Brain Maggot plus Sylvan Caryatid to set up an Eidolon next turn.
Wow. Nope, he's gonna Maggot here.
Patrick's got a pretty stacked hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't he just look at that collection?
Elspeth. So, yeah, he's got like great cards in every category. Planeswalker, enchantment, instant creatures.
Yeah, he's got the whole range, and basically Nam has to decide whether he wants to take Silence the Believers to let his Eidolon of Blossoms live, or take Elspeth. I think taking Fleecemane Line and Courser, those cards are okay, but they're not as high impact as the other 2 cards. And my guess is that Elspeth is just too dangerous if you don't have an answer to it. And Patrick's got a Caryatid out. He's going to cast Elspeth in 2 turns.
And it's not as if Nam doesn't know what Elspeth can do, seeing as he's just sitting here on the back of 2 game wins, back-breakingly with Elspeth, Sun's champion. And
that's
indeed,
what he does, yes.
Yeah. You'd kick yourself forever if you left a guy Elspeth and then she did that to you.
But if you leave the Silence of the Believers in hand, Patrick can just get the Elspeth back when it's convenient for him.
He can, and Patrick can actually still cast Elspeth next turn. If he just plays a land and passes, presumably the Scry land, then next turn plays a land and plays Elspeth after casting Silence of the Believers on the Brain Maggot in a turn. And that might just be what he wants to do. It looks like he is going to run out the Courser instead, though.
Yeah, it looks to just dig a little bit. Oh, we see a Brimaz.
We've got a combo here. We've got Mana Confluence plus Courser, offsetting the life loss.
I'm at 17.
Here's my Fleecemane Lion.
And I think Patrick's just content to let the Brain Maggot sit there and get back his Elspeth at a future time.
Just whenever he wants it.
But he would rather not take 2 turns off of casting spells to do that.
Right. And we've seen that just how much you get to dig through your deck and find your better spells with the Courser.
Reach out, Hero's Downfall, no Monstrous for you. Forest from Nam, back we go to Patrick Chapin.
Here we see Thoughtseize on top of his deck. He draws his Brimaz.
Thoughtseiz's losing a little luster here. Nam does not have a ton of cards in hand, and he will likely cast the good ones before Patrick has a chance to Thoughtseize them.
He's been sitting slow rolling that Eidolon of Blossoms, and he's just waiting to, I guess, wear out Patrick's hand a little bit.
He might be. He also wanted to kill the Fleecemane before it went monstrous, so he might have felt that just waiting an extra turn would not be advisable.
Back up to 18 for Chapin.
Leaves Thoughtseize on top.
Keeping the Thoughtseize, now he has to decide whether he wants to Elspeth or Brimaz, because basically if he just passes, he's representing silence the Brain Maggot, cast Elspeth next turn, but it looks like he would rather just get more threats on the board.
Right.
Here is Brimaz, King of Ereskos.
And the cool thing about Silence, I mean, part of the reason the card is so insane is that because it has Strive, by keeping Silence in his hand, Patrick is, kind of restricting the future plays Nom can make.
Right.
Because if Nom plays another creature, now all of a sudden Patrick has the option to play it for 7. And
Yeah,
just kill 2
Patrick's
creatures.
one land away from killing an Eidolon of Blossoms and a Maggot.
Yeah, now Nom actually would not mind seeing, another Brain Maggot would be kind of awesome here. He casts Eidolon, draws Brain Maggot, casts Brain Maggot, takes Silence, draws another card, and that's kind of like what his deck is trying to do here.
Wow.
There you get a look at Eidolon of Blossoms.
And it looks like he left the card on top. I don't know if he's still thinking or not, but he did just scry, and if he left it on top, then presumably it's something that'll do something in the near future, especially since he knows Thoughtseize is coming. So leaving an expensive spell there and getting Eidolon or that spell Thoughtseize could be rough. So my guess is it's an expensive spell, because otherwise he would have cast Eidolon to draw it.
Right, right.
And play it, but he knows he's going to get Thoughtseize.
Do you want to just guess Elspeth here?
And that's the one that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. Here's the Thoughtseize. Sees the Eidolon, 2 lands.
And Patrick, I think, is reasonably ahead here. Even if we're assuming an Elspeth comes off the top,
This is Mana Confluence? Yeah.
Nom is at the very least going to be able to have his own Elspeth against Patrick's.
And Patrick has mini Elspeth going in Brimaz.
But Patrick also has Banishing Light on top of his deck, so his 5th Hero's Downfall sitting there waiting to snatch up whatever it is Nom plays.
Gain a life.
The non-combo of 1 Courser Crucifix and 3 Mana Confluences.
Well, this is part of the power of Patrick's deck, is and kind of more so on a read of the format. The fact that he's able to play 3 Mana Confluences this game and have it not cost him basically in the slightest is why his deck works.
Yeah. It's what lets him play turn 2 Fleecemane Lion, turn 3 Brimaz.
Right.
Brimaz has attacked. That's why you see 1 bonus token up at the top of your screen on the right. It's Vigilant, of course.
Looked like the card was Banishing Light that he kept on top.
So it was a card he could not cast. It cost 3 mana, and he only had 2 left if Nom played the Eidolon of Blossoms. And Banishing Light does not get hit by Silence the Believers, so I imagine we're going to see Brimaz banished here.
We are indeed.
But Patrick now has a window to play Elspeth, since he's going to cast Silence the Believers at the end of the turn.
Pick 1.
Yep. And there it goes. Nam knows full well what's happening there.
You see Nam putting the card sideways under his graveyard because it's exiled by the Silence.
That's right.
Yep. I'm at 15. 15. Okay, you're 17.
On top now is Thoughtseize.
This one considerably less good.
These 2.
Just take the 1. But now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Ow, ow, ow.
Just ow, ow.
Yeah, there's only 2 there.
Elspeth up to 5, 3 soldiers.
And
Board advantage well and truly P. Chapin.
And it's not relevant in this matchup, but it is funny against Bile Blight that the Brimaz soldiers and the Elspeth soldiers do not have the same name. It's cat soldiers and just regular soldiers. Elspeth's on the other shoe now. Numb. This is how he won his last match, and right now he's under the gun. I mean, he's got very few turns to find an answer for Elspeth, and even if you can stop her from ultimating, well,
Backup plan.
the accumulation of 9 tokens might just be too much.
Attack. Take 3. Yep.
Take
13,
3. Expected blocks from Nam.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick just sort of going, this is what you're going to do.
They've actually been very helpful to each other here in game 1. Oh, yes, you're getting rid of my Brain Maggot, aren't you? And then making Elspeth. Yes, I am.
Well, we have another one of those games where all the information has just been known for so long.
Banishing Light on Banishing Light. Get my Brimaz back.
Absence of board sweeper in
Wow.
the format. You don't come back from that. There's a big burst of applause that you can perhaps just hear in the background there. They're a long way away from the feature match area, but that applause is for Patrick Chapin, who leads by 1-0 here in the final. He's had a storied Magic career, but nothing would top taking the title here. Why don't we take a look at the sideboards, because of course nowhere is it more important than in the final when we have best of 5. And BDM, you described this as a sort of Nassif-ish sideboard.
You know, lots of ones, 10 different cards, you know, something that really challenges the graphics department when you're putting it on display.
Which I'm sure was his primary factor in choosing
I'm
it.
not convinced that it's not.
You were ideally suited to conspiracy, weren't you?
Oh my God, I loved it. You know, I'm not sure. Just how much is Chapin gonna do here? I assume the Deicides come in. Maybe not the Glare. Well, I guess the Glare of Heresies are gonna come in for the Elspeths as well.
Yeah, you also have Feast of Dreams, which can kill Courser, Brain Maggot, or Eidolon,
Oh,
or
wow,
Herald
yeah.
of Torment.
It's actually at best in this matchup.
Yeah, it's very good against all the Enchantress type decks. One of the cards that we went back and forth on is like, do you want Drown in Sorrow? Because it kills Brain Maggot and Eidolon at the same time, but those are the only 2 cards in the deck
Right.
that it really affects. It affects if you're behind in the Elspeth War, that could also be a factor. So, but Patrick doesn't have a ton of cards that are terrible, since Nam does have Planeswalkers. Hero's Downfall can't come out. Some of the green, black, white decks, don't have any Elspeths, in which case Hero's Downfall is just like a worse removal spell.
Right.
But given that Nam does, you're going to want to keep all your Hero's Downfalls in.
Right. And the Glare of Heresies also take care of the Banishing Lights and.
Yeah, Glare of Heresy has some decent utility.
I'd like to ask both of you, who, in all honesty, have seen more actual matches of Magic this weekend than I have for sure. Deicide is a card that's obviously brimful of flavour. It's just hard to imagine a more flavourful card. What do you think is the role of the gods in this set? We haven't seen a lot of devotion decks. We haven't seen a ton of Erois running around in Red, White, Heroic, for example. And Deicide, therefore, doesn't seem particularly to have been a card that sort of had its chance to be full value. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, I think you're really just expecting to get 1-for-1 with that. You're just expecting to get a Banishing Light or maybe get an Eidolon of Blossoms. And if you happen to get a god and just like strip your opponent of multiple copies, well, that's just gravy.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is that Standard has hybrid cards from Ravnica block. So you have Nightveil Spectre, Frostburn Weird,
Boros Reckoner,
exactly. All Burning Tree Emissary, all the cards that really make gods from Theros into huge threats and just animate them much more quickly.
They're things you can believe in.
Exactly. You're accumulating enough devotion, whereas playing just within Theros block, Design was very well aware that they had this restriction. They did not make a triple blue 3-drop. So that's why we haven't seen a lot of Thassa's attack.
Right, and when you see, we've seen the one god we've seen in this top 8 was Perforos, and it was really there it was there as a spell.
It was an enchantment that sits there and shoots your opponent.
Right.
That was Patrick Chapin. That was his sideboard. Let's move across to the other side of the table. Nam Sung-wook from South Korea. This is what he's got, a slightly more manageable collection. He's got one Deicide as well, and Glare of Heresy, Feast of Dreams, Dark Betrayal, some of these familiar cards by now. Agent of Erebos, the full set of Fleecemane Lion, 3 Reaper of the Wilds, and a Singleton Silence the Believers. What's going on here, Luis?
If I ever saw a matchup to bring in Reaper of the Wilds, this was certainly it. Reaper seems fantastic against Patrick. It just blocks all his threats. Could even pressure Patrick if you end up with an aggressive draw. The pinpoint removal spells, I think, are a little less good just because a lot of Patrick's cards are somewhat resilient, especially Fleecemane Lion.
Let me ask you a question just real quickly about this before we end up going back down to the floor. Are you surprised that some of these Constellation decks we haven't seen more Extinguish All Hope? Which seems like a card, against Patrick's deck, it seems like it would be, kind of a huge advantage to be able to bring a card like that in.
Yeah, we thought that Extinguish All Hope was good in the decks, and again, going back to Conley's Constellation deck that Chris Fennell finished 19 with, I'm pretty sure they were playing the same decks and they're on the same team. Yeah. Extinguish All Hopes was part of their plan. It kills Prognostic Sphinx.
Exactly, yeah.
It kills a lot of the commonly played
Sweeps
creatures.
away all of the detritus from an Elspeth.
Exactly, and It looks like Nam decided that it was not the card he needed.
Right. Well, he seems to have really focused on that transformative element of becoming more of a junk beatdown deck with the Fleecemane Lions and the Reaper of the Wilds when we've watched him sideboard.
The funny thing is, he must have built his mana base. I mean, you have to. You can't just add 4 Fleecemane Lions to your black-green deck and say, like, yeah, it'll probably work. So this is a well-tested sideboard at the very least.
All right, well, the players are ready to go for Game 2, so let's get back down to the action. They have both kept their opening hands, so we are away with the man on the right of your screen in the white shirt and the super sharp red tie, Patrick Chapin, 1 to the good in this best 3 out of 5, remember. So he's still a way away from the finish line as we get ready for Game 2. Nam will begin with a scry.
We could go get a glass of water and just come back in 2 turns when both players have untapped lands.
After they both scried for a few cards.
Yeah.
Played their 2-drop on turn 3.
Oh, but look at Patrick.
Just going to take a look straight away, please. So we see 3 land. Thoughtseize, 2 Thoughtseize.
Different pictures.
I was just going to say,
the horror.
an operationally loose pair of Thoughtseizes. He's like, well, I need to know which one's in my sideboard.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And this is typical of this kind of matchup where even though Patrick's more aggressive, both players are going to spend a couple turns Thoughtseizing each other, and it's kind of going to depend on who can actually get up a card or 2.
Right, and Patrick takes the Silence of the Believers and is happy to let himself be Thoughtseized here.
Yeah, if Nam just had 1 Thoughtseize and let's say another expensive spell instead of the second, I could definitely see that going the other way around. But given that Patrick's about to get Thoughtseized a bunch and he has his own, sort of duplicate as well, so which makes Thoughtseize, again, take Silence the Believers.
I guess they just can't bear not to have perfect information. They're so used to it by now.
I don't hate Nam just going after both coursers, but if he thinks that his engine is more important than Patrick's, then I could see that. And it looks like also, actually, if you take a look at Nam's hand, he looks like he drew a Hero's Downfall. So
oh, wow.
That gives him direct answers to the Centaur Courser, or Coursers of Krufix, and is no longer as worried about them. And whereas Silence of the Believers, you have to trade with Thoughtseize. Your removal spell can't take it.
Scry time for Patrick Chapin. Interesting. Eventually decides to put it on top.
18. Yep.
Confirms 18 apiece on the life totals. That is correct.
And there's Courser of Krufix.
And I think this is going to work out pretty well for Nam, this sequence. Since he gets to play Courser, he doesn't get to play a land this turn, but if Patrick plays a Courser, Nam gets to take another shot at finding a land and gets to Hero's Downfall Patrick's Courser.
So at least for a moment or 2, coursers will match up against each other. Fleecemane Lion on top for Patrick Chapin.
Nothing sweeter than revealing a Scry land on the top.
Of life's simple pleasures. Okay, here we go again.
I'm assuming he pointed at the Courser there, not at the Read the Bones.
That's what it looked like, but we'll see. He might have verbally indicated something.
He might have Chaos Orbed both of them. Oh, no, he did take the Read the Bones. Okay.
I like that more. I think, given that you've got removal spells for coursers, you would rather trade 1 for 1 for those and not let Patrick draw 2.
Sends away.
Once you're going off the courser, you don't really want to see lands.
Carroted.
You guys may hear a very vocal audience murmuring in the background. We have a lot of people watching this match out on the screens in front. There you get a look at the crowd.
Oh, it's us. That's right. Hello,
hey
everyone.
guys, how you doing?
Give us a wave.
19 to 17. Yep.
Yeah, that place has been packed all day, especially during some of the quarters. My goodness me.
So Patrick could have played a second courser to gain an additional life before playing his land, but he'd rather just get a Fleecemane Lion, play, which I think makes a lot more sense.
We've seen that card just be, really force Patrick's opponents to take a sequence of play. They can't wait a turn to deal with that.
Yep.
It's basically a card that has the bullseye on it,
Yeah.
right? Because any minute now, it could have no bullseye on it.
1918.
It turns into a 4/4 hexproof indestructible, but it only costs 2 and threatens to do that much earlier than you'd actually be able to cast a 4/4 hexproof indestructible.
So, Luis, I understand you have a little perfect information about sideboard decisions here.
Yeah, I was able to, cunningly, receive that information from from Rashad. It looks like Nam cut 2 Eidolon Blossoms, 2 Brain Maggots, and a Herald of Torment. So
Wow.
taking both enchantments and the kind of reason to play a lot of enchantments out of his deck, 4 3 Reapers, a Glare of Heresy, and a Silence of Believers, turning himself more mid-rangey, if that was even possible.
And we have Reaper of the Wilds on top of Namsung Wook's deck right now.
And it's going to be good this game. Whereas Patrick went, he's really planning for the long game. He cut all of his Sylvan Caryatids. And I think the only reason you would really do that is if you expected the games to go long and just didn't want to flood out. He doesn't value casting his spells a turn earlier or casting them really quickly because he thinks that Nam is not going to be able to capitalize on him having a slow draw. So taking out the Caryatids just reduces the kind of the mana sources in his deck. And for them, he put in Glare of Heresy, Deicide, Bioblight, Thoughtseize, Read the Bones.
Wow.
All removal, disruption, and a way to draw 2 cards, which combos quite well.
Elspeth into hand. On top, Swamp.
And Patrick a little under the gun here again because, as we've seen, the player who controls Elspeth is the player who well on their way to winning the game. And Nam's going to be able to cast an Elspeth now if he wants to. He might even be fine with his Reaper getting silenced next turn, not leaving hexproof mana up, in exchange for just having an Elspeth in play.
1918.
Here she comes. And here comes the bodyguards straight to 5.
The Elspeth's Reaper of the Wilds combo also seems like you get to start tearing through your deck.
Yeah, that is nice. I mean, you get a lot of free scries. Part of the reason Nam just had to cast Elspeth there too is that Patrick has another Thoughtseize in his hand.
Right.
And if you wait on that, then you just get Elspeth Thoughtseized.
Also, in a situation where both of you end up having an Elspeth, you just want yours in play first, right?
Yeah, you were racing to the ultimate is
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing.
Silence the Believers, the Reaper, and the Courser.
The Reaper and the Courser, 7 mana,
Just double check luck.
2 for 1,
21,
as they
16.
say in the trade.
I have been so shocked. I was, shocked to see that card at first. Obviously just a good removal spell, but just to really see that, people were just playing it for 7 and 10 mana and getting, that strive action off of it.
Well, part of the big reason is that Bestow is a very relevant, part of this block format, especially in the mono black aggro deck with Herald of Torment and Night Howler and Spiteful Return. So having an easy way to just nuke a completely bestowed creature is huge. Having an easy way to kill exile any creature, regardless of which color, and as you said, paying 7 and 10 mana to get the 2-for-1 is pretty awesome.
1819 by my count.
1819.
1819.
Patrick, of course, having to do this on his main phase before Nam untapped and can protect his
Right.
Reaper with hexproof.
Yeah.
Little bit of housekeeping on the life totals, but 1819 is now the agreed, and they're coming at Elspeth. Now we'll put
He's
things
like-
in the way.
Okay.
Got to get you get a free token while you're at it.
Your turn.
As you can see, looking at these guys' hands, they're both the ironic Temple of Plenty.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, in this matchup with all these Thoughtseizes floating around, you're going to end up with the cards in hand, being a pretty bare list
Yeah,
most
yeah.
of the time.
The petty Thoughtseize.
Now I'm choosing not to play his Temple because, why waste a scry? He likes having Banishing Light on top.
Right. Yeah, knows he's not going to push that.
At this point, Patrick can attack Elspeth, but it wouldn't really do anything since Courser and Caryatid can block the 2 Coursers.
2118. Yep.
Patrick does have a Fleece Mane Lion. He just drew.
Police main line.
Yeah, but Nam's going to get to tick Elspeth to 7. Patrick's going to draw Deicide, then Elspeth's going to go Ultimate. And for the 3rd game in a row, we see an Elspeth looking across at a Courser, knowing the Elspeth's going to be safe.
Your turn.
I mean, Courser didn't slow you down, and in fact sped you up. It peeled lands off the top of your deck, but it is the bearer of bad news.
Yeah, and then you see Elspeth, the countdown here is that third line of text. You get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and flying.
That's all of them.
Yeah, that's all of them. All the dozen or so of them you made while you were ticking your Elspeth up, up, up. Just says go.
There's no real reason for Nom to cast Banishing Light here, even if it gets thought seized.
I take 2. Monstrosity.
Patrick takes 2 to Monstrous, his Fleece May Lion. Now has a 4/4.
What's on top of the deck? Forest.
Gain 2.
Game 2. Forest again.
Deicide the Courser.
So Deicide the Courser, that goes away, and so, I don't need to show you what I'm drawing. And Chapin will pile in.
And this leaves Chapin not actually dead to Elspeth, but in a situation where he's going to take 18 damage
It's 2 die.
off the Flyers next turn.
Your turn.
Is there any way that Num doesn't pull the trigger on Elspeth here?
I would be surprised. He does know that Patrick's not going to be able to answer it next turn either.
Right.
So he could actually wait a turn, but I feel like that's not super likely.
Yep.
Ooh, we've even got an emblem.
18. Yep. 3.
Put Chapin to 3.
Now he's got a 2/5 flying Sylvan Caryatid. So that's the important part.
Yeah, and Patrick's...
With Defender.
Yeah.
So it's 1-1 here, and we started out at best of 5, and we are down to best of 3.
There you get a look at the feature match area where these guys are playing. They're sequestered on one end of the hall, while the crowd you saw is in the front of the hall. They have special viewing areas set up for those players to watch. There's some gunslinging going on out there. A number of Hall of Famers are playing Magic against spectators.
And we've seen Elspeth in play. She's a big part of the set. We've also got an Elspeth out front in terms of cosplay. And we've got Christine Sprankle here this weekend being all kinds of planeswalkers and sundry other supporting characters. Always fun to see her at the big Magic events. A lot of people I know have been really excited to come and meet the living, breathing Elspeth.
Yes, the MTG Sybil.
Yeah.
Many disparate personalities exist within her.
I even got to see some Hall of Famers gunsling against each other, where with Ben Stark, Bob Maher, and looked like Eric Froelich on the same team in a team draft.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
That seems pretty good. But why don't we take a look at Elspeth, who over the last hour or so has been totally front and center. What a wonderful, wonderful card she's been. Obviously building an insurmountable army, and then that idea of destroying big things like Stormbreath Dragon or Polukranos World Eater. What I do love, though, is all those cool plays with... This has been the set where you bestow onto your opponent's creatures as a thing. But the ability to sort of go, I've drawn Celestial Archon, I've got Elspeth in play. I'll bestow my Celestial Archon on your guy. Is it huge? I think it is. I'll destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. And now I've got a Celestial Archon back again. Thanks very much, Elspeth. You're fab.
You can also do that with Feast of Dreams. It's a nice, bestow onto a creature and Feast of Dreams. It saw that come
enchanted?
up a couple
I'm
times
sorry.
in Limited. All right, Luis, you do a set review every time a new set's released. Where did you have Elspeth Sun's Champion when you at first blush?
For limited or constructed?
For constructed.
For constructed, I don't remember the exact number grade I gave her. She's certainly powerful. I didn't predict exactly how dominant she would be. The fact that she's routinely a 3-of in standard deck lists as a 6-mana card is something that took me by surprise.
Yeah, and you have a pretty good track record with these things. So I mean, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying, like, because I've certainly talked about the fact that it took me by surprise, and I think it really did just that 3 tokens. That 3 token ability is so powerful. The fact that you could put her down and she can just defend herself against so many situations.
Yeah, the fact that she also lines up really well against other cards that cost a similar amount of mana, just because she kills most of them or blocks most of them, it takes a very special creature to get past Elspeth while also not dying to her.
Right.
Of course, Ailerling can also be that creature, but you often find them in the same deck.
Is 6 mana broadly speaking, your squick point for where a card is like, hey, listen, my friend, you better be fabulous before I'm doing things with you?
It's actually at 5 mana.
Yeah,
so
that's where it is for me also.
Elspeth hitting at 6 means that she's just that good.
Means maybe we've underplayed some of the previous Elspeths.
It's possible. I mean, we played the middle Elspeth, Elspeth Tyrell, in block constructed. We played 2 in our sideboard, so I have had a little experience with that.
But she is certainly driving towards potentially winning a Pro Tour.
Oh, she's gonna win a Pro Tour.
Yeah.
One way or
Well, she'll
another.
be in the deck, but I mean, it's quite likely that the finish will involve an emblem.
I would be shocked if the finish didn't involve an emblem.
Yeah, definitely.
These watching these guys, it really seems to like you said, it comes down to a very grindy attrition game that's going to be about the last Elspeth standing.
Yeah, and even though both players have many ways to kill Elspeth, if she's unanswered, she just wins the game. Whereas if you have a hero's downfall and you don't use it, it's not like you automatically won the game.
Yeah, maybe you need to side out your Courser of Krufik so your opponent doesn't know
Yeah.
that you don't have a way to deal with the Elspeth.
The thing about Corsa is it's such a delight when you can do it. But watching them both go at it and almost the futility, it almost feels like First World War kind of trenches going on here, where I've got this great thing, it's Corsa Crucifix. That's funny, so have I. I'm at 21, I'm at 22, ha! And then eventually, none of that matters because here comes the dynamite, here's Elspeth.
But I think the Courser is also why we saw so many. If you look at that top 25, it is just stacked with, very experienced, very, very talented magicians. And I think, in a field that's also dominated by Courser of Crucifix, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, definitely.
It's certainly true that I've never, ever played telepathy on the basis that I've got plenty of ways to get the game wrong without knowing anything else.
Okay.
So, Patrick Chapin is going to keep his hand. We're away. So, a thumbs up. Let's go again. As I say, we are down to the best 2 out of 3. Let's go with Game 3, Chapin and Sung Wook. That empty board will not stay empty for long. It's going to get very full unless strange things happen. Patrick Chapin will begin with a temple. He will get to scry. Temples are just wonderful for smoothing yourself. He's going to go on top. With that, we get our first look at Patrick Chapin's hand. Double Elspeth Sun's Champion, obviously a way off from that. A Glare of Heresy out of the sideboard, Fleece Mainline, and Hero's Downfall. And all of those cards are about to be known by Nam Sung Wook.
Did he keep or push on his scry there?
He kept. He put
Okay,
it on
so-
top.
Presumably
Almost
it
certainly
adds
a-
white mana.
Yeah.
Since that is what Patrick is missing. And depending on what Nam's looking at, he might want to just take the lion just to not have to deal with it, since that is the only card Patrick can cast in the immediate future.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly what he does.
Patrick still has an uphill battle here, or as Ben Stark would put it, a downhill battle, because even if he draws a land here, he's still 3 lands away from casting Elspeth.
Nam with lots of land. An Elspeth of his own, a long way off, and Herald of Torment.
He's got his own 3/3 that is going to try to prolong the game until he gets to an Elspeth.
It was a mana confluence for Patrick on top. He's going to play his swamp here, though.
Yeah, there's no reason to show Nam. Even though Nam suspects you drew a land, there's no reason to
Right.
show him. Though that does narrow it down to not a temple.
Oh, but there's a Brain Maggot. Off the top for Nam.
And given that he knows all Patrick's hand except the unknown card, which he thinks could be a land, I assume,
Yeah.
then, yeah, he's got some thought to, do I want to just play this now? Do I want to just take the Hero's Downfall?
You've got to assume he's going to take the Hero's Downfall here.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Is he going to go Herald of Torment, beat down, just drop that on turn 3 in a really slow hand otherwise?
Yeah, and part of it is that Yeah, because the Herald can come out turn 3, though. Nom doesn't actually have a way to cast it turn 3 since he's used up his reserve of untapped lands.
Right, he did not play a temple there on turn 2.
Patrick drew another land, so Patrick's basically hoping to rattle off just 2 more lands in a row and start casting Elspeths.
19.
Feel the power of the Brain Maggot beatdown.
This is going to be a close game because if Patrick misses even 1 land drop, Nom's probably not going to. He's got 3 temples in hand, so as long as he finds 1 land in the next 3 to 5 cards.
In the next 6 cards of his library, yeah.
Patrick's getting there, though. He drew a scry land, so if he sees a land here, I think he's just going to want to keep it. He's not under any pressure, and he really wants to cast Elspeth.
It goes away.
He only has the 1 white source.
Yeah, so he had to ditch the swamp.
Yeah,
Swamp
wow.
was not an Elspeth castable land. So this is the turn where Patrick has to draw one of his tapped white lands. Otherwise, he's going to have to draw an untapped white lands if he wants to Elspeth on turn 6.
Here is the Herald of Torment for Namsung Wook.
Granted, given the Herald of Torment, it's not just game over if Patrick does have the turn 6 Elspeth, but it'll go a long way.
Chapin draws.
Looks like that was a Silence the Believers.
Yeah, which is certainly not a bad draw here.
No, absolutely not.
Up to 5 mana, but not up to double white.
How much of a hurry is Patrick to just deal with that Herald?
Given that his game plan involves casting Elspeth, I think he's just going to want to kill it right away. Also, he doesn't know when he's going to be able to cast Elspeth, and he doesn't want to just find himself at 10 life and run out of time to do so.
Right. No thoughts about wanting to be able to get his hero's downfall out from under the maggot to deal with, maybe have a way to deal with an Elspeth if it happens on the other side of the table. Oh,
looks like he's just going to run both.
Yeah.
By killing the Maggot, he then gets to kill the Herald in the event that he misses on drawing an untapped white source.
There is
Scry
white
again.
source number 2. It'll come online next turn.
Yeah, waiting in the wings.
Yeah, and a tapped white source is still good here since Patrick now gets to know he's casting Elspeth next turn, cast Herald of Torment a turn later.
He's got an answer if his opponent has an Elspeth in Glare of Heresy.
Which will let him not lose the Elspeth race since with all the tokens getting produced over these next couple turns, we're going to see a pretty close race. Though Nom has his own Banishing Light, so this is a mirror match.
Elspeth 1.
And straight to 5. First 3 soldiers. Odds on them running out of soldier tokens?
High.
Well, the soldiers might be bashing into each other. That can refresh the reserves of tokens.
Indeed.
They're playing Iron Man. When those soldiers die, they tear them up. Rashad just got a shiver somewhere.
So I like this play. I'd rather play Elspeth and make tokens than just spend your whole turn casting Glare of Heresy, which costs 2.
Right.
And this way you don't get behind on the tokens. You get to trade for this first wave. Nom is likely going to remove Patrick's Elspeth this turn, so if Nom has another good play this turn, this could be tough. But there aren't that many low-cost plays he's got.
So Reaper of the Wilds, I do believe, went in there.
Oh, well, that's going to be interesting.
If he had 7, I would like casting Reaper a lot more, but it looks like he's going to go for a bunch of
There we go.
scries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Though, if he left his card on top, the additional scries aren't, an insane amount of value.
A little.
What if he taps the deck?
Yeah. No luck scry.
6 soldiers have indeed departed the battlefield. Elspeth up to 6.
Yeah, just chooses not to scry 6 times.
Yeah, if you know your top card is great, then, that's probably why you're in the finals of the Pro Tour.
Patrick has to cast Glare here, right?
Well, he could wait another turn because he's got Elspeth in play, and Nom isn't ultimating here. But I don't think Patrick wants his Elspeth to die, and I think given that he's not really progressing his board, he's gonna have to cast Glare.
So there it is, Elspeth gone away. His own Elspeth has 2 loyalty left.
This is the situation I think, Patrick found himself in because he couldn't cast the first Elspeth. Now he's going to lose an Elspeth, assuming Nom attacks Elspeth with all 3, which I think he's reasonably going to, just because otherwise 1 removal spell and you just gave your opponent a free Elspeth. And then Nom casts another Elspeth, and then pluses. And now even if Patrick kills the second Elspeth, which he does have the ability to, Nom's got 6 soldiers versus Patrick's 0. Of course, Patrick then gets to untap, cast his own Elspeth, which Nom then gets to kill. But the balance of all this is that Nom is up 3 soldiers. It was a long and winding road, but we got there.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing those 19 things happen in order.
Well, actually, we've got another wrinkle. Patrick drew another Elspeth. So what? At the end of all this, presumably Patrick has an even... We've got an even board. The Elspeth is going to get killed by Nom's second removal spell, and Patrick's soldier tokens are going to trade for Nom's second wave of soldier tokens.
Anyone else's head exploding? 6-3 is
Keeps
the
it on
soldier
top.
lead right now.
And here's where Patrick's got an edge, because he's got more Elspeths. I mean, he's got the full amount.
There you look at the hero of our story.
I'm going to miss her. In you.
Block with 3.
Which signals that Elspeth is dying this turn,
Right.
which she is.
9 to 16.
Right. Has the option to attack Elspeth, but attacks Patrick instead.
And I think the reason to cast Hero's Downfall here is that you don't want Patrick, having another Glare of Heresy or Deicide and getting Elspeth back.
Here's Elspeth for me.
16. Chapin.
3 soldiers apiece. Oh,
Well, the top card can only be Elspeth. Oh, nope, it's a Courser.
That would have been exciting, but a Courser is still good here. Of course, Patrick has multiple Silence the Believers, so soon we're gonna find ourselves back where we were.
Cut. 2.
such a beating, that card.
Trade off our soldiers.
All gone.
So now it's Courser versus 2 Silence the Believers, with Patrick getting the first draw step and Nom drawing a Scryline on the next turn. So I've got to give the advantage to Patrick here.
That was an extraordinary few turns in terms of the exchanges and the back and forth and where the dust reveals itself once it's settled.
Well, also when you think, I mean, players generated a ton of permanents there, and they just all evaporated turn after turn.
Yeah, I mean, that is what you mean when you got a slugfest, when each card trades for each other card. So what I like a little bit more there is waiting toward the draw step, because you can see Nom's top card
Get a piece of information.
without letting him be able to use Courser.
I mean, Nam has
Oh,
never
still
pushed
thinking.
a card.
Yeah, of course. Scry is much worse in his deck.
Once again, he leaves it there.
Now it's Patrick's Silence the Believers and 1 draw step.
It's like he drew something.
He's huge. It was a Deicide.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. She's back. And she bought some bodyguards.
I heard there was a party.
It is done, says Elspeth. Oh, brain maggot. What does that achieve?
That gets a Silence the Believers out of his hand, one way or the other.
Yeah,
but
one way or the other, it's gone. Patrick has to decide whether he wants to kind of just reserve it under the brain maggot for a future time, which I actually like, since I think you can get better than just a brain maggot. The 1/1 body's not going to do a whole lot.
Elspeth is back, and she is on the side of Patrick Chapin. Chapin sends in the team, and the team is going from 3 to 6.
I like his troop placement there.
Yeah.
What does Nam need to draw here?
He needed to draw a remove spell for Elspeth that turn.
Deicide did the job. It is done. Patrick Chapin leads by 2 games to 1.
1 game away from something that's eluded him his entire career, a Pro Tour title. His 7th Pro Tour top 8. He's got a Juniors Pro Tour top 8. He's got a Vintage Pro Tour top 8 and 5 Senior Pro Tour top 8s.
I'm going to call that 5.
I think we just call them Pro Tour top 8s now.
Out. 1 game away. I wonder how he's feeling. You and I were there in 2007 BDM in New York with that amazing semi-final against Gabriel Nassif. We were there when in the final he went down to Uri Peleg of Israel. That was how close he's been. But now he's that 1 match closer. Now he's 2 games closer. Now what? Meanwhile, on the other side, Nam Sung-wook hoping that Elspeth will help him out. But Deicide, we talked about it when sideboarding earlier in the day. Let's take a look at this new incredible card. What a fantastic piece of Jason Chan artwork, quite apart from anything else. Holy wow, that's a great piece of art.
Yeah, they did not waste a great piece of art on a weak card here either. I mean, this is obviously a very powerful card. Again, just a perfectly serviceable card. Like, I get rid of your Banishing Light. I free my guy. But also just has this incredible amount of upside.
There's terrific gameplay always when those cards, like Brain Maggot the same, where the card isn't truly gone. It taunts you on both sides of the table, you that you can get your own thing back, and your opponent that, well, I got rid of it, but nah.
So let me ask you guys, do you read that second line on that description of Deicide as development hates fun? I mean, that's how I read it. I don't know. Do you read it that way? Dave Humphreys hates fun.
I'll admit I was a little surprised when I read the card. I mean, I think that if not for the flavor justification of following the story, I suspect that this card may not have made it there, since it does, sit on gods pretty hard. It gives you an answer, one that is really, really powerful. And when you built your deck around a god, which is how it tends to happen, I mean, what is mono blue without Thassa?
Right.
Then having Deicide kind of, just end that deck is kind of interesting. Not that mono blue devotion's going anywhere.
No.
But Deicide's certainly good against it.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what you were talking about there. I think development loves fun. I mean, what is more fun than being able to kill something that you weren't able to counterspell earlier in the game?
This is true.
I mean, yeah. Sure. I'm just picturing. Hey, you know what? No one was gonna kill my Crufix anyway. They were just gonna let it sit there.
Yeah, I think Crufix is pretty safe. Crufix was not the reason Deicide was printed.
That was a spectacular game of Magic, and if Patrick Chapin does indeed go on to win this Pro Tour, I am sure he will look back on a game of Elspeth, take away an Elspeth, bring back an Elspeth, and just go, yeah, she's my girl.
We said this Pro Tour is going to hinge on the last Elspeth standing, and I think that game was a perfect example of it.
So now, make the case, Luis, from 2-1 down for supporters of South Korea's Nam Sung-wook. He's 2-1 down, no more room for maneuver. You see him there gearing up for a must-win 4 followed by a must-win 5. How does he go about making that happen?
Even though he's got, one less Elspeth, he does have a better support cast for Elspeth than Patrick does. I'm assuming that the Fleecemane Lions and the like are not actually going to end the game. Elspeth's going to end the game. Given that, I'd rather have Eidolon Blossoms and Brain Maggots kind of backing up Elspeth and Herald of Torment harassing it than having Fleecemane Lions to attack on the ground.
Right. But how many Eidolon Blossoms does he have after?
It looked like he only has 2. He's worried about enchantment removal. He doesn't want to make his deck too slow because he's boarding in Reapers that are also 4-drops.
Right.
But Reaper's also a pretty solid card.
Right. And certainly trumps the Fleecemane Lions that we were just talking about.
That it does. Because even if when the Lion's monstrous, they bounce, and when it isn't, Reaper just wins.
I can see an Elspeth Suns champion in the opening hand for Nam Sung-wook. Both players are ready to go. We're ready to go. Is it destiny time for Patrick Chapin, or can Nam Sung Wook force Game 5? Let's find out. Here we go.
And opening hand is not exactly where you want the Elspeth with all these Thoughtseize flying around. You'd rather her be about 8 cards down.
So can I scry that from my hand to the top of my deck?
You can start.
Here we go. Push a card off of a scry. There you get a look.
Mana, mana,
Patrick
mana,
Chapin's
mana,
hand,
mana.
Yeah. A confluence of mana. He's got a Deicide and a Fleecemane Lion as his action spells. But let's take a look
And
at
it-
what's going on the other side of the table.
We've got-
Sylvan Caryatid, Reaper of the Wilds, Elspeth Sun's Champion, Banishing Light, Hero's Downfall, Temple of Silence.
No green mana is what we have over there. We've got a good keep if you can draw a green.
Could we see a turn 2 Fleecemane line, turn 3 Brimaz? There's Brimaz there.
I think Brimaz
But
is heading to the
Do
bin.
you think it might be gone? I think so too. I think even I'd have got that Thoughtseize right.
So I think Nam Sung Wook, could be in big trouble here. He's potentially missing land drops, which has been.
But not only does he not have green, he doesn't have a third land.
We've seen Patrick Chapin today against a defenseless opponent who couldn't get enough land. Are we about to see the same thing here? He's 2-1 up and 1 game away from $40,000. The Fleecemane Lion comes in for the first damage of the game.
And the blue envelope that he's been seeking.
Patrick really wants
World
to find another
Championships.
way to pressure Nam, since Fleecemane Lion by itself won't necessarily get the job done.
Right. Big draw step for Nam.
Banishing Light.
He has
Pass
to
the
pass
turn.
Oh my gosh.
And this is a reason to play Chapin's deck. He's got Fleecemane Lions. When your opponent's stuck on lands, Fleecemane Lion is much, much better than, say, Prognostic Sphinx.
In we go. We've seen life totals barely shifting through this final. They're starting to shift now.
Remember when I said Fleecemane Lions weren't going to end the game? looks like the one just might.
Chapin finds a way to dagger you here.
Yeah.
It looks like Nam
Thoughtseize.
brought in his Fleecemane Lions for this game.
What have you got? Well, of course, it's all spells action all the time.
This game is certainly not just over. And Patrick's got 2 answers to the 2 Banishing Lights. But if Nam can rattle off a couple lands and just play a Reaper of the Wilds, Chapin doesn't directly have an answer to it.
Right. Caryatid, Forest Caryatid, next turn Reaper of the Wilds, and he can hold the ground for some time.
Chapin
But you
on
take the Caryatid here, I assume.
I could actually see taking the Reaper.
Oh,
Or
no, he's,
even
oh
the
yeah,
Hero's
actually,
Downfall.
Hero's Downfall. Next land, he's able to play that card.
Yeah, that's the easiest to cast, and if you can just get this Fleecemane Monstrous, you are very, very likely to win the game. Reaper still stops you, but you need to fade Nam, not having anything for just 2 more turns.
Patrick Chapin waiting for a draw step for the South Korean that could bring him so much closer to that coveted title and a seat at the World Championship.
There's a
It's
swamp.
land.
But Swamp's not going to do it. Deicide, end of turn on the Banishing Light.
Yes, you send my guy away. I cannot fast enough negate that.
Nam's like, yes, I know.
Back we go.
Here's a land. It's monstrous.
Pick one.
Take
Three-
1. That
three
doesn't
turn
matter.
clock.
In we go.
So Nam just needs to draw a forest to play a Reaper of the Wild. He's got 1 turn window because there's a Thoughtseize waiting in Patrick's hand.
Here we go. What's on the top of the deck for Nam Sung Wook? Getting super close now. That is no help. It is not a land. Patrick Chapin, almost motionless. So close to the dream. All weekend we've talked to him. And it hasn't been about wins or day 2s or top 8s.
17 to 4.
It's been about a dream of a world championship title. And the next phase of the master plan is within his grasp. Thoughtseize. He looks at 6 cards from Nam Sung Wook. Chapin looking again for the monsters under the bed where there are none. They're in his hand. Reaper of the Wilds, go away. Courser of Krufix, signature card of the weekend. Gain a life. It's not your life you need to worry about right now. It's those 4 life points away that you are from the Pro Tour title. It's a forest, I think.
It is a forest.
Look at Chapin there. So close.
He can buy a turn on carry added here. Gets another draw step.
Yeah, and the line doesn't work because of Bile Blight that we know is coming.
And Nam
Well,
shakes
no,
his
Bile Blight
head.
actually stops Chapin from dealing damage because he's got his own lion.
He is carrioted.
But Chapin's now got Nam in the Abyss lock every turn. Nam's going to have to sacrifice a creature.
Thoughtseize on top for Chapin. In we come. Block. Boom. Chapin passes. Surely he's moments away now. Reaper of the Wilds comes off the top for Nam Sung-wook. There's the hand. Patrick Chapin, the innovator, has done it. He cracks a smile because he has just won 40,000 US dollars and he has taken it down. All business, all the time, all the way. And Patrick Chapin, BDM, the crowd's going nuts out front. In 2007, the crowd went nuts for Gabriel Nassif. But now it is for Patrick Chapin, the champion.
And there you had a chance to see Patrick Chapin being gracious in victory, complimenting Nam on his play, on his deck. Someone who understands what it's like to lose in that situation and maybe to hear a few kind words from your opponent.
Yep.
That was just extraordinary, BDM, to see that. And right from the get-go, we talked to him as early as Thursday. He wasn't just here to do his best. It was almost like that, as you said, the 3 days, well, almost just something he had to skip his way through to get to where he wanted.
Right. He's made his way through to day 4 now.
Absolutely incredible. I know that Twitter and the internet will be going nuts. He's one of the great beloved players, and seeing as you're in the booth, you couldn't win. So, congratulations to Patrick Chapin. Let's take you back to the news desk. Waiting for us, Randy Buehler, Zach Hill, and first, here's Marshall Sutcliffe.
Hey guys, welcome back to the news desk. Wow, what an exciting finish to a great weekend. You know, we talked about Patrick Chapin a little while ago, the life of a professional Magic player. Even a successful one like Chapin doesn't often include victories, right? Outright trophy-winning victories. Zach, talk to us a little about what you think Chapin's going through right now.
I mean, Chapin looked like he was about to cry, and I can understand that. This Pro Tour win has been a long time coming. I think his last top 8 was in 2011, last Pro Tour top 8. So, I mean, putting up consistent finishes for a very, very, very long time. Having a win after 20-something years of playing this game, I mean, is just got to be one of the highlights of his entire career, maybe his entire life.
Randy, you've been there.
Yeah, no, it feels amazing. I mean, it's funny, when I won, I honestly thought I had lost that game and I was just going through the motions. So for me, it was a shock when I won the game. I'm like, you don't have a counter spell? Oh my God. I was in my head sideboarding for game 5, but for Patrick, he goes for the Thoughtseize on, turn 2 or 3 and sees exactly what Nam Sung-wook is holding and you could just see his hand start to shake. Yeah. He knew it. He knew it with that first Thoughtseize when he was like, oh, you have a bunch of green cards and no green mana. Oh my God! And he's like, his hands. You could just see his fingers. That was the moment for me. I think that's where Pat started to realize, wow, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I saw a big train of all of Patrick's friends and teammates coming over to congratulate him outside of the feature match area there. We are going to be bringing you an award ceremony in just a few minutes with Rich Hagan presenting trophies, that kind of thing as well. But for now, it's deep breath time. One of the things that I wanted to mention about the tournament in general, and especially about the finals, I was monitoring the Twitter feed with the hashtag on it, Elspeth, everywhere. It was just a completely Elspeth-dominated weekend. Randy, you had Elspeth as one of, if not the most powerful cards in the format. Talk to us.
Oh yeah, I think it's the most powerful format warping card in the format. Each of the first 3 games of that final was basically decided by the last Elspeth standing. You know, if you could stick an Elspeth, you play it, get 3 soldiers. If it gets killed right away, okay, fair enough. But each of the first 3 games, if you stuck an Elspeth for more than a turn, you win the game. That's how that played out.
And what's interesting to me about the way it played out and the finals that we saw is that so much of the tournament up to this point had been defined by the rest of Team CFB Pantheon's bug deck, Channel Fireball Prime's bug deck. We were talking about how Elspeth had kind of gotten leveled by Prognostic Sphinx, that players had adapted, so on and so forth. But at the end of the tournament, it wasn't the next level card, it was Elspeth herself that defined the finals, and it was Elspeth herself who won the tournament.
So Patrick Chapin, known for playing control decks, yet recently has had a lot more success with this sort of mid-range, touching aggro type decks. You think he's going to be a convert now?
He definitely sees this as a strategy he'll go back to. I mean, the key to both this and his Pro Tour Theros deck is that he can play beatdown if that's what the matchup says to do, and he can play control if that's what the matchup says to do. So it allows him to play the deck differently in different matchups, and that gives you a lot of resiliency. I mean, you have to, it's not like you hoping you get the right opponent. It's like, well, okay, for this opponent I play it this way. Fair enough, I got a plan.
Okay, Richard Hagan is over in the feature match area, and he is ready to do the award ceremony here from Pro Tour Journey into Nyx.
Hello everyone and welcome to the award ceremony here in Atlanta for Pro Tour Journey into Nyx. What a weekend it's been, and we begin with welcoming to the stage our finalist, the first man from South Korea ever to make the top 8 of a Pro Tour. Your applause please, winning $20,000 US, Mr. Nam-sung Wook. Nam-sung Wook from South Korea winning $20,000 US. And now it's time to welcome our champion. He is from the United States. He wins $40,000 US. Here he comes, Mr. Patrick Chapin. Patrick, in 2007, you got all the way to the final, and then Yuri Peleg kind of got in the way. How much more fun is it to be on the right side of the score ledger in a final?
I'm not even sure why I did it the other way the last time. This is way better.
I don't want to worry you, but about 4,500 pro points have just kind of got in behind us here. You have quite the entourage. What is it like working with this rogues gallery of awesome?
It's truly a blessing. I mean, outside of just being the absolute best people to collaborate with and share ideas with and test with, it's the most fun times getting ready for a Pro Tour, and the people that I see at the Pro Tour, and they're people that I've learned so much from in many areas outside of Magic. It's just awesome to know all of them. You know?
Next step, World Championship.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, your champion here of Pro Tour Journey into Nyx, Patrick Chapin. What a phenomenal achievement. We want to thank each and every one of you, the viewers, the judges, the players, and of course the staff for making this such a great event. Join us again for Pro Tour Magic 2015 in Portland, August 1, 2, 3. That's the end of the award ceremony. Let's head you back to the news desk and Marshall Sutcliffe.
Wow, thanks, Rich. Really exciting stuff. It's so great to see Chapin, enter the crowd of his closest friends and companions and high five. Randy, talk to us a little bit about what it means. By the way, we're going to get Chapin at the desk, and we're going to get to ask him some questions too in just a moment. We're letting him, have a minute to catch his breath. But Rich just mentioned it. World Championship is the next stop for Chapin now. He has secured his seat there. Doesn't need to fuss around with pro points or at-larges or regions. He's just in.
Right. Yeah, no, I saw him give an interview yesterday, when he qualified for top 8. What does it mean? And what he said then was, it's just the top 8 of a PTQ. Like, my real life goal is to win Worlds, and if I want to go to Worlds, I have to win this tournament. That's how you get in. So he was playing a PTQ final. He just, 3 wins, just got to win this top 8. Then I get to go to the tournament I really want to win. I think he'll be pretty happy with this win, but it was still kind of a cool interview, and I think he genuinely has that as his life goal.
Well, it's a PTQ final with $20,000 on the line.
It's a WCQ final, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit bigger than your average local tournament. But yeah, just a huge moment for Chapin.
Yeah, so what does this mean for Chapin going into next year, Randy? I mean, he gets his World Cup slot, but that's not all he gets for winning this tournament.
No, he gets platinum status. You win the Pro Tour, you automatically get platinum status. That means all your flights are paid for. That means all your invites are there. That means you get appearance fees whenever you go to a Grand Prix or a Pro Tour. It's exactly what you want as a professional Magic player.
I also heard that he gets some money. $40,000 to be exact, so not a bad payday there for Chapin as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the rest of Star City has got to be pretty excited. I mean, Patrick's in the Hall of Fame anyway, but knowing that you've got another platinum level pro is going to be motivated at this point, not just to attend the Pro Tours, potentially a bunch of Grand Prix. That's one of the best deck builders in the world who is going to be on your side for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he's also one of the most popular Magic players in the world as well as Patrick Chapin, and I was monitoring the tweets that we put up on the side, and I was picking the ones that go in, just kind of, and it was pretty overwhelming. Team Chapin, Go Chapin, everybody around the Magic universe rooting this guy on right now. By the way, he's getting his microphone put on, and we're going to have him on the desk to get a chat with him. And I got some good questions for him. I hope he can hold it together. I think that'll be the interesting part. He's got a giant check in his hand and a big shiny trophy, and that's on top of the other things that you just mentioned. Let's bring him in right now. Patrick Chapin,
hello.
Have a seat there.
Nice job, buddy.
Congratulations, Patrick.
Thank you, man.
My arm's long. Welcome to the news desk. Congratulations, Patrick. You are the champion of Pro Tour, Born of the Gods. How awesome does it feel to hear me say that?
It's kind of unbelievable. Yeah, a 10 out of 10, I guess. It's like using Jace the Mind Sculptor's zero ability.
So it's better than all things.
Yes.
So this is something that we were mentioning a little bit earlier. You've dedicated your life to this game. I mean, this has been your pursuit. This has been the thing that you have put at the forefront of your career for years and years and years. Yet, even with the successful career that you've had, it's not uncommon to see ultra successful Magic players not have actually won the tournament, right? We talk about top 8s, we talk about lifetime pro points, which you have many of both of those. You get to finally scratch that off the list of having that trophy in your home.
It's definitely a different sort of thing to actually win, and it's really nice to win one of these, Like you always can imagine yourself having done better up until the moment where you actually win one of these. It's unbelievable, the best ever.
So I've got to talk about Magic the Gathering cards and
Please.
deck building. At Pro Tour Theros and at this Pro Tour, you've shown up with a deck quite a bit different from the rest of your teammates. Paul Rietzel, we saw top-hitting Theros with a black-white mid-range deck that was a little bit different from the mono-blue Devotion deck. Here we saw a lot of your teammates on Bug. You were on this kind of junk mid-range deck. How did you arrive at a slightly different conclusion from so many other great players?
A lot of people like to play grindy control decks, and I mostly like to try to beat down a lot. And no, I don't know. I guess just from testing the results I was getting favored going this direction, and I've never really been one to pick my deck based on what everybody else is picking or not. Sometimes it lines up like it did for us in San Diego last year, but this time ended up going a different way, and both decks were awesome though, So it ended up working out, I guess, just experimenting with everything. Part of it was also just that with so many people working on the Bug deck, I knew it was getting to a good place, so I could experiment with lots of other stuff, and that's how I arrived at this one.
A card we saw from you, Patrick, we saw 4 copies of Brimaz King of Oreskos, a card that was really hyped when it came out, yet we haven't really seen that much of that card in main decks in Standard or at this tournament. How did you arrive at that card when so many other people either ignored it, missed it, or didn't think it was good enough?
Step 1 of this format seems to be all this stuff about Elspeth, but I think step 2, Brimaz is actually a really important card, and a lot of people couldn't find a good home for it because they were only using it in aggressive decks. But this format has basically almost no realistic main deck answers that cost less than Brimaz, so there's like no way you can ever lose value. So, and if they ever don't have a way to stop it, it's a plan all by itself. I mean, as much as I like to beat down now, all the different cards in this deck are all secretly Jameday tomes, you know, like Courser of Krufix and Brimaz and Elspeth, they're all just making extra cards, you know?
Randy?
Yeah, no, the nickname's been the innovator. You know, you've always been the guy behind the scenes, brewing the decks. You know, other people have piloted them to more success. Do you need a new nickname now? I mean, are you just the winner now? Is this how this works?
I don't know about that. No. I'll be lucky if I can get into the, top 2, like get into the top half of the team I test with.
So you're known for being a control player. You made a joke about it earlier, but you said, now that I like to beat down, is Elspeth the new Jace?
I mean, I have a different way of beating down. I start at the 1 spot and try to just go all the way up.
1 to 6?
Plus I just think Elspeth's an absolutely incredible card. Like, even as much as people were prepared for it, I just think it was the best card in the format, so I just wanted to be, warping whatever strategy around it.
Well, and that's one of the things we saw. You know, everybody we talked to brought in people for deck techs, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I knew Elspeth was really good, but we're prepared for it. Here's the 92 different things that we're doing that allow us to beat that card. And yet, in the finals, it looked like 2 Elspeth decks. So do you think the people that thought they were prepared just may have been overstating their case?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I think the bug deck's super good, and it doesn't use Elspeth. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you're going to play against. You know, if you know all your matchups, the control deck can be fine. But I just wanted to have as much raw power as possible. And Elspeth really is sort of like a Jace the Mind Sculptor, where even people who are prepared for it, they don't really beat it. They cut their losses, you know?
Is there anybody that you want to thank? I know that you had a whole team to work with. You've got a family.
Absolutely.
Who do you want to talk about?
Okay, sure. I mean, obviously, Channel Fireball Pantheon and Star City Games for making everything possible. And my mom, and most of all, my wonderful, wonderful wife, Amanda.
All right, do you want to thank Elspeth? She's here as well. Elspeth is here.
Elspeth, you have done nothing but wonders for me. Oh my God, thank you. That's great. You do good work.
All right, congratulations once again. You are our champion, Patrick Chapin. It's got to feel good. All right, it looks like that's going to do it for our tournament, for our weekend. From Pro Tour Journey into Nyx, it has been one heck of a ride, guys. A great format. In fact, both of them a lot of fun to watch, but it is time for us to leave. Now, we're going to be here actually in this very city next weekend. In fact, all 3 of us are going to be here along with the rest of our production crew for the Grand Prix. There's Grand Prix next weekend here in Atlanta. We hope that you will join us for that. But for now, it is time to leave. For all of the staff, for all of the judges, for all of, well, hey, for our champion, Patrick Chapin, for Elspeth sitting over there, for all the spectators at home, and, for you, the viewer. You guys are the ones that make it possible here, and we love it that you join us to watch Magic. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, signing off from Atlanta. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Perfect. Congrats, Patrick.